What's up again, my friends? How's it going today? As usual, I'm struggling for a way to start this video. Like a lot of the videos that I make, I feel cheesy making them. Anybody who's made videos about life or about themselves has at least most likely at one time or another said, who the hell cares? Why am I talking about these things? Is it ego-driven? Is it driven because I really want to inform people or share things? Is it a personal or a non-personal issue? Really, it becomes irrelevant at a point because we as humans aren't sure what we should be doing or what we could be doing or would be doing that would satisfy us in our lives. And for me, making YouTube videos, talking about things in general, talking about something that I learned that day or something that's just on my mind, it helps me to purge my thoughts, to purge my mind of things that I really need to say. I guess you might call it sometimes a catharsis in a way, but being able to use extreme emotion to express things, except I don't generally use emotion in my videos, and I don't have the demeanor of somebody who's really angry or really ecstatic. I try to be my natural self, this is me. And the other night, when I made a video talking about me and my life, I had, I never watched my videos afterwards, so I don't really recall exactly what I talked about, but one thing that was interesting was that I mentioned in the video that it's harder for me, or I don't have as much of an interest in hearing personal stories generally. And somebody actually was pretty upset about that. They said, well, here you'll sit and talk about yourself, but you say you don't want to hear anybody else's stories. That is absolutely not what I intended to mean when I said that. But what I meant was that hearing stories, to me stories are the most important, crucial aspect of we as humans. The stories I like to tell are general stories about the world, things that I've heard or learned. Personal stories, even though I've made several videos, thousands of videos, I rarely talk about my own personal life. And I've told myself in the past, the reason why I don't talk about my life is because people wouldn't be interested in what I have to say about my personal life. But every time I do talk about my life, people are interested. So it led me to do a little bit of thinking over the last couple of years. And once in a while, I ask myself, is it a matter of of a self-preservation or protection of who I am? Or is it hiding from my past? I don't really think so. But lately I've been starting to think that the way that I perceive my life isn't necessarily the way that, well, to give you an example, if you've lived your whole life thinking a certain thing, such as, well, everybody must be this way, and you find out they're not, such as I mentioned the other night, somebody who can't see faces and didn't realize how bad it was until somebody, confronted them on it. For me, it might be that I just don't talk about my past because I don't remember it. And I've noticed that a lot of folks remember when they were 5, 6, 7, and they tell these stories about, oh, I remember when we were, 5 and we went to this fair, and they describe all these things that happened. And I think, I don't really remember anything about my childhood. I remember getting stung by a bee when I was 5. I remember the neighbor kid across the street who we would get in rock fights, and various little aspects of my life up until I was a teenager, and that's when I really started to remember events in my life. And I thought, well, maybe that's just the way my brain works, But forgetting your childhood, it lends a whole, a difficult aspect to knowing who you are or certain things that may have affected you. But more than that, it's saying, well, I want to remember the fun times when I was young. And I do. I remember going camping. I remember family trips. But I can never know how good my memory is of those things compared to others. So talking about my past, it's like when I do, I'm able to bring so many more things to the surface that I completely forgot about. And that right there is my own, being my own shrink, if you will. Or rather speaking to a camera, to the world, but having ideas conveyed that help me to learn. And what really got me this morning was I got up and turned on a video by Aaron Gok. He's I think it's Gokin, but he uses Gok on his YouTube channel. Anyhow, really nice guy, and I mentioned him the other night in the video I think that I made. Well, the video I happened to click on of his, he was mentioning my video, and he was talking about opening up, and I just found it to be a great synchronicity. It was the things I've been thinking about lately, and he always seems to resonate with exactly what's on my mind. And I've heard people say the same things about a video that I make that they were thinking about. I think this is a general, we all have these things within us that we want to express, but until we are able to discuss them outright, it's very difficult to acknowledge, I guess. I suffer like anyone else. I have issues in my life I need to resolve and work on. I can pace and wonder what I should be doing. What should I be doing today? And that's why when I sat down to make this video, I thought, at least once during the video, I'm going to mention that I'm making a video, but I could be doing the dishes. I could be folding laundry. I could be doing my taxes, which are way overdue. I could be doing a lot of things that society tells me you should be doing. And it's not that I'm resistant to society's ways. It's not the anarchist screw you attitude, although that is maybe part of it, but rather that I feel like I'm trapped in this world and unable to really express myself the way that I want to. Now, it doesn't mean that I feel like I'm a prisoner. I've heard a lot of people talk about how this is a prison planet and how we're all trapped and we can't do what we want, our freedoms have been taken away, and our rights are being stripped. Many of the factors regarding laws and regulations, yes, they become overwhelming. And the more you learn about what's going on in the world, the more devastating it can really seem. And the more we just want to do this, and hide out. But remembering that it's all perspective is the crucial element. There are people who suffer through so much worse. That people who are in the middle of the fight, the battle that we're so worried about. Or we're worried about people who are starving. Well, there are people who are actually starving. The ones who have to face the things that we worry about or that we feel bad about. And we feel bad about. We feel bad for other people. And a lot of people address this as, white guilt is a term that's thrown around now. Or, the way that we try to address grievances from other races, cultures, sexual orientation, whatever it may be. Anybody who stands up and tries to speak for people or to say, hey, we should all have rights is battered down by others who say, no, this is the way things should be. And those people are the problem. Those are the people that are the problem in our society. See, there are many, many problems that we have to face. And even if humans were, all open with each other and we recognized who we were in our pasts and where we want to go with our future, there would still be turmoil. There would still be travesty. That's just life. Life is death. So, I don't mean that in a negative way at all. I just mean that everything now goes through a cycle and we try to preserve this and hang on to this life preserver, but eventually, you can hang on to the life preserver all day long, but eventually you let go. We all do. And that's the realization of that this life is precious. It's all we have. We're conscious beings. We're attached to certain things and resistant to others. We respect and revere certain people, but push others away. It seems like if you're a person who really cares about things, you're just considered a bleeding heart liberal idiot, and, how dare you care about things. And maybe that's why it's harder to open up about our personal lives, because there's always somebody who wants to stick a fucking hot screwdriver in and just twist it. And no matter how innocent people pretend to be, so many people will berate others about how they think that they should be. But even more, the intentions behind what a person says and what they mean. This happened to me the other day with somebody who was calling me a racist and a hater and all this, but that's nothing compared to some of the people I've dealt with. There was one show I was watching earlier. It was TED Talks, and the title was how a tweet can destroy your life. And there were a few stories of people who have said things that were taken out of context. and how it just created this media frenzy firestorm around Twitter and elsewhere and Facebook, and people were just, how could this person say this? And just not realizing that one thing that a person says can be taken out of context and just destroy not just their reputation, but how they feel about themselves. Having people hating you, especially if it's for something you haven't done, is a very difficult thing. I can't imagine. I've had people think, in the past maybe that I was a certain way, and I can imagine how it must feel if it was somebody who loved me, like a family member or a friend who thought I was a certain way when I wasn't. Or in some cases, that's exactly what happens. I have family who think that I have, maybe I'm trying to tease or troll them, but in my mind I'm really just trying to press for the facts and the issue, that it's not personal. And it shouldn't be personal. And that's why when a YouTube comment section, let's say, explodes into an argument about whether if something's true that's mentioned in the video, that's great. The minute a person says, no, you're wrong, you're an idiot, and then they start talking shit about their past or something they don't know, or, oh, maybe you just go back to playing video games, or, oh, the one I always hear from people, oh, smoke another bowl, you druggy loser. How many times have I heard people, I had somebody even on a comment tell me today I need to go get treatment. And I thought they were joking around, or you said crack is bad. It was one of my videos about Kratom, and I said, please help me. What do I do? Going through with the joke, and they said, you should seek treatment, and also you can go to church. I thought they were joking. I was like, I really don't need either one, but thank you very much. I said, maybe you should seek some counseling for judgment, because it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong about a person. This is where I'm trying to hear. When you convey a message to someone that the way they think is wrong, it's not really any of your fucking business. But if that thought of the person or what a person's doing affects the world, then of course you speak up. If someone's harming someone else by the words that they're saying, then that's understandable. And there's no reason we should have to hold back from our true feelings. But as soon as we try to align our intentions with another person's intentions and assume that what they say means a certain thing, then we've gone the wrong road. And I've had so many Christians attack me as soon as they found out that I wasn't Christian. That was a major point in my early days on YouTube. That at least once a month some Christian would come in and they'd seem really kind and nice and tell me, how much they enjoyed the video, and we'd start talking about philosophies on life. Then they'd bring up Jesus, and I'd say, I'm just not, I don't take Jesus as my Lord and Savior. I'm sorry, I don't. And instantly I'm going to hell, I'm a Satanist, and they will dig and dig and dig and pry. They can't be content with the fact that I don't believe. They have to keep pushing until I am the enemy. And this isn't just religion, this is what happens all over the net. And people team up on one another, and we get stuck in these echo chambers. Where, like Facebook groups, where, well, I don't want to talk with anybody who has different political views, so I'm going to mute all them, and they're doing the same thing to you. And so everything you post is just going to people who say, yeah, I agree, and you assume that the whole world agrees with you. But really, they all agree with parts, and nobody really agrees 100% on anything. So when it comes to our, talking about things that are going on in the world, it's difficult for any of us to really get the whole picture. But when you're talking about your personal life, then you're really open for criticism, because, there's always somebody who can point out a flaw. But at the same time, it reveals a lot of flaws to you yourself. There is a point where it becomes a problem. That's when people talk about only their lives. And this is something that I have a problem with, and probably what I meant when I say I can't listen to other people's stories. See, I listen to lots of people who talk about their life and their stories. I've, several different people I enjoy listening to on YouTube and elsewhere, but they're not political. I don't enjoy political rants or anything, of the sort, because I know it's just somebody taking a headline that I could read myself and giving their opinion on it. And really, I don't care about their opinion on it. That's probably what I meant. But when it comes down to people's personal lives, if they're not playing the pity game, and they're not whining, and they're not playing the victim role, then it's very pleasing. Anyway, for example, for a person to sit and say, God, I had a really rough childhood, I was abused, or I was, adopted, and then my parents didn't love me, whatever it might be, and then can follow up by saying, but hey, I'm stronger for it. Not forgetting the pity, not forgetting the boo-hoo, and because we all suffer. And it's really hard for me to take victims seriously when their problems are their own, and everyone has similar problems, but that we don't all vocalize our issues, I guess. Make sure the camera's still going. Yep. And that's one of the issues I have, is when people expect you to tread lightly around them because of something that happened. Sometimes that may be a valid response. Some people are very delicate. And but I would say that we just have to be careful not to misinterpret each other's intentions, but also misinterpret what a rough life really is, or another person. Like when I sit here and talk on my videos, a person may think I've had people leave comments like, man, you got it made, or, you must have a great life, and, just because I say I have a wonderful wife, a wonderful family, I have a home, and I work for myself, I do all these things that people think are, oh, that's something I'd like to do, I'd like to be happy. Well, happiness doesn't come from things, and it doesn't come from relationships, it doesn't come from having children, it doesn't come from just doing the job you love, even if it's, even if it is. All of those things contribute to happiness, but everyone wakes up and thinks about the same problems. I mean, not the same problems, but everyone wakes up with the same thought about things in their life they probably need to work on. I'm sure there are plenty of drugs you can take which will just knock your brain, and, taking heavy dose of Valium, oh, now I'm chill, or taking antidepressants daily so you're kind of numb to it, or how opiates will numb you to actual pain. But eventually, one day, you have to reconcile. You have to come full circle back to your sober self and say, this is life. This is the reality I'm in. I know, because when I was younger, I smoked a lot of pot all throughout the day. It was something to look forward to, smoke a bowl, smoke a bowl. And nowadays, it's like I don't usually smoke until the evening. It's because I know if I do, I'll catch a little buzz and I'll feel great, but afterwards, it'll wear off and I'll be back to still having to deal with the normal shit. So looking back in retrospect, cannabis was an escape mechanism for some periods of my life. Not anymore. Now I just enjoy a nice bowl in the evening. But still, escaping reality is something that we humans do want to do. And it doesn't mean that we want to escape the world and everyone in it. It just means that life is tough. We have an obligation to think. And that's pretty fucked up if you think about it. Okay? The animal kingdom, there's some very intelligent animals out there, and we don't know exactly what goes on in their brains. But most likely, they're not consciously worrying about whether they're going to die tomorrow. In the back of their mind, their self-preservation is always something that all animals share. And they're well aware that others have died and that there are issues, but they don't have first world or third world problems in crow's nests or, in the fox den. They have their own problems, but those problems are actually something... Okay, let's put it this way. We've tried to escape war, pestilence, we've tried to eliminate disease, and all these things that were so horrific in our past. And, of course, we haven't done a good job abolishing war, but that's for another story. All of the things we've done to try to escape pain. And now it seems that our civilization is in more pain than we've ever been in. And especially in America, people seem to be more depressed than anywhere else. It's because we have these obligations. What we call first world problems are full world problems. The things that we're dealing with today are problems that everyone will face tomorrow because the whole world is growing. And even individual issues, these are things we all have to work out. So if something's a problem in your life, it's a problem that needs to be talked about. If you can't bring that problem up to others and have them not laugh at you, then maybe it's not that big of a... I mean, if they're laughing at you and saying, oh boy, like, oh no, an ingrown toenail. Okay, so we all have problems, but it doesn't mean that they need to all be addressed and complained about constantly. But we do have to address our grievances, especially as people, and there are others around us are going to suffer. Countries are going to fight, and there's going to be a lot of pestilence. But the point being that even though we've eliminated a lot of this, what that's done is eliminated a lot of the distraction. The day-to-day just keep going. One day at a time is a way that many societies have lived for as long as, human history. But then all of a sudden, now we don't have to live one day at a time anymore. We're planning for our futures. We're trying to get a job and go to college and do these things for something that we may not even want to do 20 years down the fucking road. Like, we can step up and, as cavemen, we go out and we might want to hunt enough meat to make sure we have some saved. But you can't force yourself to go out and organize how the herds are going to move. And it's day-to-day life is just the day-to-day activities that keep us busy. A lot of those aren't there anymore. We're worker bees, we're in this slave economy, and it really sucks to feel trapped sometimes. But that's why we're here to talk with one another. So I'm on your side. When it comes to these things, I'm with the people. It doesn't matter if you're extremely liberal or extremely conservative, or if you're a Christian or if you're an atheist. I respect all people, just so long as they know that ad hominem attacks on individuals because you're uncomfortable aren't legitimate, or making assumptions about people's lives aren't legitimate. But especially try not to berate people's personal lives or where they've come from, because it's really hard for us to know the truth and the depth of it all. And alas, we do our best in this crazy suffering world, and when we have a moment of clarity, well, we try to share that. So try to share the positive thoughts you have. Try to put them out there in the world. It's not about ignoring the negative, but there are enough negative people out there to where I learned how to distance myself from them, but still got caught up in the bullshit sometimes. But when you try to distance yourself from your own negative thoughts, that's a different story altogether. So we all have that to work on. Namaste, my friends, and have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you all soon.